Welcome, everybody. My name is Natalie. I'm from Google Partnership Team. And the reason that we're here today is because Google has long supported users' ability to control their own data, download it, and transfer it to a third party of their choice. And we have seen through like hackathons and events that actually this speeds up product development, innovation, and that's why we're here today for innovation. But I want to make sure that before I tell you how the evening is going to go, that you all get to know our main hosts of the evening. So that will be on Fabric. Maybe if Ishita and Massimo can join me and just talk a little bit about who is on Fabric.
Hi guys, thank you for making it. And yeah, so I'm Ishita, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Fabric. And at Fabric, we're building your digital self. Now, what does that mean? Really, we see that a lot of users are searching on Google, they're posting stories on Instagram, they're chatting with GPT and with Claude, and all of that context actually sits within the platform in which it's created. And that's really, really sad because then when you ask an agent to do an action for you, it actually doesn't have the full context. So at Fabric, we help you curate that context. We create this digital self of you, if I may, this understanding, and we help you bring it into the AI products that you use every day, like Gemini, like GPT, like Claude. And we work with amazing partners like Google. So Google has been leading data portability for over 20 years. And this is, and you might ask like, well, why is like Fabric starting to work on context portability now? And that's really, really critical because a lot has changed recently. So one of the big changes that we've seen in the ecosystem is that there is now actually regulation, such as the European Digital Markets Act, which actually supports a legal sort of path for companies like us to build successful businesses. And then, as we all know, there are brand new use cases of Google search data, of Instagram stories, and that is in building really personalized AI applications. And so, like this evening, we want to show you what we've been working on and like how we facilitate context scalability. And also a bunch of the developers that we work with will show you how they bring context into their products and how that transforms the experience. Yeah, I think that's all from me.
But yeah, I think from now I'll just pass it on then to Tui from Google. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Really appreciate it. We usually don't get, we were just talking earlier at data portability events. It's not like the hottest topic, but it has become so over the last few years. And so I've been working in this space for 13 years, Google itself for much longer. And it went from being a nice idea, right? From those of us who grew up with apps where we couldn't get our data out or we couldn't get a hold of it in a standard format. And a nice idea of a few of engineers that kind of grew into a product space that then grew into an entire kind of movement. And based on that fundamental idea that data should be shared, data should be open, et cetera. And so it's really, really exciting to be here. I also love startups. I was at a startup that was purchased by Google quite a while ago. We actually worked with formats that were competing standards, and we took the decision to not end up fighting on one standard or another, but find a path through that worked, without having to fight standards bodies or et cetera. Find a way to adapt with the current situation and then make a product that actually, built a lot of value through it. And I see that happening today, right? With Fabric and with so many people that are using our API, they're taking the data that is now available and they're saying, okay, how do we solve some larger problems using this data? And it's a really exciting time because it's sitting there. Like I'm going to show you what we built. It's not going to be rocket science. It's very straightforward. And this is what our team built at Google. We've been building this, as I said, for 13 years and different versions of portability tools. And we're showing off the latest. But once we build it, right, like the data's available. What's next? Who's going to come up with the creative ideas? Who's going to solve problems for users, business problems, health problems, all kinds of problems, right? This is the space. Places like this and companies like Fabric and other folks are the ones who are going to solve those problems. We're going to make it available. We want to be there and be supportive. And we really want to see this innovation take off. So it's really, really exciting. That's my spiel. Also, if you can, definitely follow us on LinkedIn and other social media spaces, on Fabric, us, where we have Tom is here, who will speak after me from Data Transfer Initiative and kind of give the broader industry view beyond Google. Follow us because we want to keep this conversation going. We want to see that it's really, really important to you, and answer questions, of course. So we have a portability API. What does that look like at Google? We've been doing this for so many years. To kind of show, we started with a little team called the Data Liberation Front, way back when, with this idea of data should be free. By the time I joined, we had 5 products, and we had a product called Takeout, and you can take your Drive data out and your Gmail data out, and use it however you like in standard formats, etc. Over the years, we grew, and then we started getting more feature requests. So a lot of it is reliability. As products grow and scale, we have to make sure it's running well. But then also we got feature requests like, I want to do a backup of my data, and where do I send it, right? And so we did export to cloud and popular services like Box and Dropbox. You can take your Google data and send it over there and have a backup, or use it for other purposes, or share it with other third parties. We have a clinical researcher who does that sharing, and then uses that for their patients, and actually is able to join it against clinical research data, and find many advancements in their studies just by joining the 2 data sets together. And then we kept growing, more and more products. As Google grew, we also grew. And then we started seeing the regulation years, right? Like, this idea was great, but how do we actually formalize it, standardize it, et cetera? And we saw Article 20 of the GDPR come out in Europe. We see similar regulations elsewhere. And we dove headfirst into it, make sure that our product was up to snuff. And then, we love hearing that we're the industry leaders, and we didn't want to lose that position. Around 2018, 2019, we created the Data Transfer Project. Some of my code is in there when I was still coding more often than speaking. And so I apologize for that code. If anybody ever took it, the open source code on GitHub. Looking back at it, you're like, wow. But we got started, and it started a different conversation. How can we enable multiple parties across the industry, not just us doing the right thing, but how can we enable and connect other folks? And so folks like Meta joined in. He actually here in London, the team here in London was amazing. And Apple joined in, and we have Ernie App now, and we have other folks who are part of the project. And then it actually turned into a formal organization, which you'll hear of next, Data Transfer Initiative. And then we added more products, and then we launched the API. Right. So we're always trying and growing, and it all depends on your feedback. So please try it, give us feedback. A brief look into what it is. So it's a safe and convenient way to share your data with third parties as a Google user. Safe and convenient is really important because there's a big balance here between when you share data, right? It's, if in a room like this, I'd ask the question like, how easy should it be to share data? And half the people would be like, I want this thing turned off because I don't want my data to easily go to somewhere where I don't want it to be sent, right? And you see the dark patterns out there of different bad actors that are trying to share data without the right consent and without informing the users correctly, right? And then we have good players and folks that that show the consent screens and ask, comply with GDPR policies, all of that. And we want to make it safe and easy for that to happen as well. So finding that balance and all the user studies we've done has been super important. We have great documentation. We invested a lot. We knew, if we're going to do something for developers and us being developers, we weren't going to shortchange the community. And so we spent a lot of time and had a full-time technical writer put everything together. So please take a look. And there's feedback on the documentation itself if we can improve it. We have all the schemas out there for the data. It's really hard sometimes to say something in a YouTube playlist might be a small piece of data associated with it, right? You might just care about the playlist data, the title, the order of the playlist, which ones I have, etc. You might not care about, say, a timestamp on something or another. We document the best we can. If there's something that's missing that your app does care about, please provide feedback to make sure that we're enhancing it along the way. We took a first pass and made sure that we got all the major data highlighted. And so it's all there. The biggest one, my activity, things like your search views and clicks. You have, as a user, as a Google user, you have full control over that. You can go into my activity and say, I want to turn off YouTube history. I want to turn on, Gemini history, all of that. Yeah, you mentioned Claude and ChatGPT, but there's also Gemini for your profiles. And so you can turn all that off. You have full control over that. And then as a developer, you can request that with the user's consent, and they can share their entire search history with you. As we move on, what does a journey look like? So this is a sample app. It's not a real app. We're not building this for demonstration purposes only. But let's say you have a really cool playlist app that can remix playlists and search music for you, right? So you get your users to your app, and then maybe you want to offer them the ability to import their YouTube playlists, right? And so, maybe you have a settings page and you say import from these sources, right? As data portability grows, and as Tom will tell you, right, in the industry-wide view, we're hoping to see more lists of companies there, right, making their data available. And then we get to the part where you actually tell the user, okay, go off to your Google account to authorize it. So you provide like an OAuth 2 style button, and you go into this flow. Ooh, this is a little bit weird. It's on the screen, but we'll see. So you click off. Of course, they have to be signed in, right? Or they have to choose which account they want to sign into. This is where the safe part comes in. We do have to inform users that what they're about to use, right, is share with significant data, right? If you think about sharing something you searched for 10 years ago, 15 years ago, when you were mad as a teenager or something, right? Or something that could be, sensitive, you want to make sure that you are informed of what's going to be shared, right? And so we provide the information, a confirmation step, and you get to choose what, the developer app would say what data they would want, and then you get to authorize it. And then you can authorize it for a one-time share, or you can authorize it for a 30-day share or for a 6-month share. Kind of the standard times you see in apps as far as allowing data sharing to go on, whether it's your location or contacts or any of that. So we empower the users to make those choices, and then they go back to your app, right? And you have the token. There it goes. Thanks. So then another thing we added, email notifications. So this is super interesting because not every API offers notifications to users. When you're sharing data, it's actually really, really important. Over the years, our experience with Takeout and with different portability surfaces, we found out that there is a lot of scary moments when you get an email that says your data was just authorized to be shared with some third party, right? And you are not aware of that. It could be a very gnarly security situation, right? So having notifications is a guarantee of your safety to make sure that things aren't being done in your account without your knowledge. And so we offer email notifications there and for user transparency. Some of the features, here's the developer workflow, right? You do your OAuth handshake, and then once you have the token, you can actually initiate the request. It's an asynchronous request, so we start generating the data and collecting it, and then you can keep polling and to see when the data is available. Usually on something like activity, it's not a large data set, so it can be done in minutes to hours. Something like grabbing a whole YouTube video channel with tons of videos is actually going to take a lot longer, right? To format it and get it all ready. And so then you go ahead and get the state, and you can go ahead and download the data from a cloud storage bucket. ACL to you, right? The ongoing access piece, right? What I mentioned is a user might authorize just one-time share. If you're thinking of a switching account, like if the user is in a switching use case where they're just going to switch to another service, that's usually one time is enough. But if you're doing one where you want to have more regular updates, then 30 days, 180 days would be what you would ask for. We added also over time, and thanks to feedback from developers in our beta program, we added the ability to add a start or end time, because you don't want to re-download everyone's history the whole time. You might just want the last day or a certain time set or 30-day time set. So we added that based on feedback and discussions in our beta program, feedback on the website. So we're constantly looking for more ideas on what to build. And then finally, auth renewal. Okay, so one thing is you got the consent as an app. How do you actually make it easy to continue that consent once that time period is up? So we have 3 different ways to do auth renewal, but the one that you're probably going to find the most popular is the direct link into renewal for your consent. So it's a super easy flow. The user just confirms, yeah, I want to continue sharing, and moves on, right? Hopefully you all have done a good job of making sure you're providing value to your users that they want to renew, right? And that's a good test, right? If they're not renewing, then something's going on, right? And then as a backup, if you don't ask them to renew, we also send out an email and remind them, hey, you're sharing data. Would you like to share again? So they get a direct flow from the email themselves if they want to continue sharing for you. And that's it on what we built and what's being used by Fabric, as you will see later on in the real demos. So this was the technical background piece. I'm going to pass it over to Tom Fish from Data Transfer Initiative to talk about the broader data portability landscape. And we're open for questions later as well.
So yeah, as Chewy said, this is a pretty big crowd for a talk about data portability. So what I've learned is after all these years, I just needed to put AI in the title, and people would have showed up. Yeah, so it's great to be here. Great to see so many faces here tonight. So I'm Tom Fish. I'm head of Europe for the Data Transfer Initiative. It sounds pretty grand. It makes me sound quite powerful, but actually it's just a reflection of the fact that we are a very small organization, and I am the only employee outside of the US. We're small but mighty. So yeah, the Data Transfer Initiative, Chewy's already provided a really good introduction. So we're an independent non-profit focused on empowering technology users to transfer their data between services. So basically what that means is we really, really care about data portability. And yeah, that's something I've really cared about for a long time as well, just like Chewy. And I've been, I think, probably prodding and encouraging Google to keep moving forwards on portability since maybe 2018, when I was an economist at the Treasury. And I think probably to Chewy and colleagues' delight, I haven't stopped prodding them since then. I think now a really good kind of evolution of that journey for me is that we're kind of now collaborating as partners within the umbrella of the DTI. One thing I would say about Google, as well as the kind of the progress they've made over that period, as you kind of saw along the chart, one of the things I've been struck by with Chewy and the team and others at Google is their willingness to be open and engage with the little guys. And I think this event's really kind of a strong testament to that. I've also really been kind of on the journey with Fabric for a while now. Certainly, since the beginning, when I had a call with Ishita and Massimo, and they described themselves as pre-idea, which I just found absolutely baffling. I think I get it now, but I didn't at the time. But perhaps I should have realised that what an opportunity that was. But anyway, ever since that conversation, really, I've been blown away by Massimo and Ishita's kind of just ability to just really kind of get the opportunity that data portability presents itself when it normally takes a lot longer to convince other people. And yeah, since then they've gone from these kind of two enthusiastic individuals looking for an idea to genuinely being, I would say, one of the most advanced companies in the data portability ecosystem globally. You'd struggle to name many other companies around the world that can kind of combine, legally, I would add, combine data from Google, Meta, Amazon, LinkedIn, Booking, TikTok, Pinterest, the list goes on, all into one data set. So the opportunity is exciting. It's great to share the stage with these two great companies and people that I truly enjoy collaborating with. So thank you. So I'm going to zoom out for the really simple bit just to start with. Chewy's kind of introduced these kind of ideas really already by talking about the Google products that they've launched over the years. But just to say, data portability really is the ability of individuals to transfer their data between services, between systems, between different ecosystems, and really the important part there is the individual is in control. Data transfers are happening all the time, but data portability is when the individual is really instigating that transfer. And there's kind of two distinct ways that it can happen, and they differentiate really based on the amount of legwork that the individual has to do. There's indirect transfers, which essentially is going to a portal or sending an email, you request your download, you get an email, you've got a zip file, you've got to download it, you've got to look at it, you probably don't have the software, you probably don't know what a JSON is, then you've got to try and find somewhere to take it and so on. It's not very useful, but it's been a step forward and it's helped raise awareness and understanding. Then we've got direct data transfers. This for me is where things get interesting. This is where an individual can transfer their data directly from one service to another. The businesses do the work and the user simply authenticates, authorizes, and kind of sits back and then gets the benefit. This is the kind of data portability that I'm interested in. I think this is the kind of data portability that we're going to be focused on for the rest of the evening. So when I'm talking about data portability over the years, I guess I get asked the question a lot, sort of, what's in it for businesses? Why would they want to develop data portability tools? Aren't they just essentially creating an exit route for their customers to kind of switch and go somewhere else? And I kind of understand this perception and hesitation. It takes up resource. It can take time, as illustrated by Chewy's diagram. It certainly isn't going to drive revenue, at least not directly. And yeah, some people might use it to leave. So why are we seeing progress now? Why are we seeing these kind of this surge in kind of new data portability tools coming online? Well, firstly, of course, regulation is important. Regulation can be a catalyst for companies to kind of come to the table and start really thinking seriously about these things. And GDPR was important, and then more recently, as Chewy, I think Ishita mentioned, the DMA has been important as well, and it's really, I think, kind of focused minds at some of the big technology companies to really solve this challenge of direct transfers. But there's also, I think, good business sense for wanting to empower your customers, to be transparent with them, to give them choices, because this builds trust and it builds loyalty. But also in many other circumstances, there are genuinely products and services where simply supporting transfers and portability is a kind of essential parameter of competition, of the product itself. If you have a heart rate monitor that you can't transfer your data out to analyze it or share it with your clinician, then it's useless. Same with a blood glucose monitor, for example. So portability is happening out there already as a result of natural market incentives. And I think the reason why I'm excited about agentic AI is I truly believe it could start to really expand the net of companies and services that feel they live and operate within that third bucket. So this brings me to context portability, which is the reason we're here tonight. So I guess my hypothesis is if agentic AI systems and services are really going to kind of start delivering effectively for us, reliably, and really in a way that solves real world problems for us, and autonomously, then we're really going to need them to understand the context of the requests that they're given. That can include kind of general external factors like what day is it, what's the weather like, what's the bus timetable in Shoreditch. But they also need to understand the context around the individual that's making the request. They need to understand sort of what's brought them to ask this, what did they do last time they were thinking about this, what are their preferences and needs and that kind of thing. And that really is where user context comes into play. And I like to think about user context as having sort of three main building blocks. So firstly, we've got kind of the first party data, the traditional kind of data that Web 2.0 was built on. All of the data that the agentic service kind of automatically has by dint of just interacting with their customers, with their users. And that was fine for Web 2.0, but I don't think it's going to be enough for AI agents to really kind of reliably and effectively make choices and decisions and deliver for us. I really think we need these other building blocks where we get data in from other sources, other external sources through data portability, whether it's from sort of online behavioral data from kind of traditional services online, or whether it's from the increasing range of AI platforms, whether it's Claude, ChatGPT, or Gemini. So really, I think if we're going to start combining these sort of sources of user context together, then data portability really is critical. And I'm looking forward to the guys from Fabric showing what magic can happen when we start to be able to combine these building blocks. But I'm a policy guy, and we haven't really solved this pyramid yet. There's still some problems. So the first is with online behavioral data. Sure, we've got the APIs that have come through from Google and a number of other big platforms, but there's still some efficiencies and sort of challenges within the ecosystem that we need to solve. And then the third building block, portability from AI services, isn't done yet. So the first challenge, as I mentioned, with the kind of data portability APIs that have come on board is around trust. So Chewy kind of touched on this problem. Data portability is great because it removes friction for data transfers, which is great for innovators like Fabric, but it's pretty good for bad actors as well. So you need mechanisms in place for data holders like Google to be able to establish which of the companies are kind of trustworthy to share data with and which ones they need to kind of filter out. The current approach to establishing trust in the data portability ecosystem at the moment is madness. There is a kind of many-to-many approach where every single data holder independently establishes trust with every single would-be data recipient. At the moment, the data portability ecosystem is pretty small, so it's just about working, but it's creaking. But when it scales, it's just going to be absolutely unmanageable. So that's a problem that DTI is trying to step in and solve. We've launched our trust registry. It's in a pilot phase. We're trying to be a kind of single centralized mechanism for establishing trust between transfer parties. We're very grateful to have Google's support and participation, I should say, in the pilot. And congratulations to Fabric for being the first company to make it through to trust level 2. The other problem, as I pointed out, was really the kind of third building block, which is portability of data from AI services. That problem has not been solved yet, but it really, I think, arguably is one of the most significant problems that we need to address in kind of tech policy at the moment. So this is something that, again, DTI is trying to step in and solve. We've published our AI data portability principles, and really we're working proactively at the moment to kind of bring as many of the big AI players together to collaborate and work out how to solve this issue so people can directly transfer data like conversation histories with both sides of the conversation history wherever they like. So that's most of the content. I wanted to sort of end on a slightly upbeat and light-hearted note. So I wanted to refer to one of my favourite movies, and looking at the average age of the room, I think it's going to flop, but I'll go with it anyway. So, yeah, in conversations over the years with kind of policymakers, with regulators, with government, I'm often asked sort of, what's all this going to do? What are the benefits of this going to be? And I've often thought back to one of my favourite movies, the 1989 classic Field of Dreams, starring Kevin Costner. So to cut a long story relatively short, the movie stars Kevin Costner. He's approached by a sort of whispering ghost of a baseball legend, and eventually this ghost convinces him it's a really good idea to plough his cornfield and build a baseball pitch. Why? Says Kevin. Oh, like, can't really tell you why. Just have to trust me. If you build it, they'll come. It'll be great. So anyway, Kevin's sort of relatively not particularly risk averse. He decides to go ahead with it. He decides to try and convince his wife. That doesn't go so well, but eventually she's on board as well. And to much expense, he ends up ploughing the field, building the baseball pitch, and then waiting to see what happens. To everyone's surprise, a whole kind of host of ghost baseball legends emerge. They have this amazing baseball match. I think perhaps sort of questionably morally, I think Kevin Costner charges for tickets. And then, big surprise at the end, spoiler alert, his dead father emerges as one of the players. So anyway, most of that's irrelevant. The one thing that is relevant is the phrase, if you build it, they will come. And I found myself kind of rolling out various versions of this to regulators and governments for a number of years now. I think the really exciting thing about this moment, really, more broadly, but also tonight, is the innovations, the use cases are now emerging. The fabrics of this world are kind of emerging from the cornfield. So my job is going to get a whole lot easier. So to wrap up, if you're thinking about building a baseball pitch in your backyard, or if you think you might fancy a game of baseball with some ghosts, get in touch with the DTI and we might be able to help. Thank you.
Before we actually start the demo, just to tell you like why we're building what we're building and why we're also demoing what we're demoing today. So to recap very, very quickly, like Fabric creates your digital self. So we bring together your context from different platforms like Google and YouTube and Instagram and TikTok and hopefully GPT and Gemini and Claude. And the idea is that this context is everywhere, right? And we need to curate it for you. And we do it so you can supercharge all your AIs with this personal context. So when you go to Claude, you can pick up a conversation that you were maybe having with Gemini. When you go to GPT, you can reference the stories that you posted on Instagram. And so you get really, really personalized responses. And we don't just do it for GPT and Gemini and Claude, we do it for all your favorite apps. So everything that we build and everything that we will show today will actually show you that we don't just build context portability for the largest companies, we build it for everyone. So everyone can use our APIs, every user can use our MCP server to actually connect their data to all sorts of different apps. Just to wrap up on this and get started on the demo, we'll show you first, from the user's perspective, how do you actually onboard onto Fabric? Like, what does our consent experience look like? And, we'll show it along with Google's consent and how we actually explain to you why you should share your data. And then we'll also show you what your digital self actually looks like. So when you share your data, what's the raw data that we get from Google, from Instagram, and how do we process it and create this rich understanding of you? And then we'll show you how it plugs into GPT, into Claude, and into a bunch of interesting apps who we'll demo today. And you'll see this use of this personal context in all these different use cases. So I think we can get started. So first to really talk about the consent. I spent a lot of time in open banking, building open banking consents. And one thing that you'll notice about our consent is that it's deliberately longer than most consents that you will find. And an easy out would be just to start with Google's consent, where we have the developer disclosure and we send you directly to the user's consent. But we did a lot of testing and we found that actually having this explanation of why you're creating your digital self and why you're actually sharing your data is actually really useful for end users, because this is a very new concept. Like context portability, Massimo often says, when you tell people, they're like, what's context and what's portability? So it's very, very important to actually explain why we're doing what we're doing. So we really start off by, just telling you, this is the real value, that the AI products don't really know you because your context is scattered across the web. And Fabric, curates your personal context, so you can bring it to any AI with Fabric's MCP server, and supercharge all your AIs with personal context. And no context sharing conversation would be complete without noting that we're SOC 2 certified, we're GDPR compliant, so we take your privacy and your security very, very seriously. And only then, after we've explained all of this context to you, do we actually get to actually sharing your data. And so we, of course, the data source connection is the main side of things. And I'm just going to copy this consent quickly. And I'll show you. I'm not going to go through all of it because you've seen parts of it with Google. But the idea is, hopefully it's showing in full. The idea is that once you know why you're sharing your data, you're more likely to share your data. And we see that once we do that, we see higher conversion rates. So for different incentives, for different sort of explanations, we see anywhere from 20 to 40% of users actually consenting to sharing their data once they know why they're sharing it. And yeah, once that's done, you're sort of, you're ready to get started, and your digital self is in progress, which, like Massimo will show you now what it looks like.
So we have some amazing demos coming up tonight, and with these demos, we really want to showcase what's possible when you bring rich user context into your favorite apps. And we hope that these demos will actually inspire you to start building new apps that feature like this rich understanding of each user so that we can all get much better services. Before we do that, I would like to show you our demo, which is basically the platform that turns the data that we get from all the different big tech platforms, basically, into a rich and accurate understanding of a user. By the end of November, we are actually going to launch this product, which is, we call it User Portal. This is the place where you manage your connections, like all the data sources that you get the data from. This is the place where you curate your digital self, which is, again, like the accurate representation of your preferences. And this is also the place where you can share this digital self with your favorite apps to make them better and more personalized to you. As you can see here, I already connected my Instagram and my Google account. In particular, I'm getting all my Instagram stories and posts and all my Google searches and YouTube history synchronized with Fabric on a daily basis. And now I can actually show you what the data looks like. It fits, yeah, good enough. So these are my latest Google searches. You will probably notice that I cannot spell LinkedIn right here. But basically, what you're seeing is one of our main APIs is Tapestry. It's called Tapestry. And it's the API that makes it super easy, makes data portability super easy, and also enables you to turn your raw data into really useful context and make it available to all your favorite apps, as we were discussing before. So here we can see, again, like my latest Google searches. I'm going to scroll through. If you see something weird, it was my brother, it wasn't me. This is, yeah, for example, like you can immediately see that I'm a big fan of Vasco Rossi. He's like probably the best Italian singer. And this shows up already in my data. As you can see, if I scroll a bit, you can clearly see that Vasco Rossi is like a repeating theme. And that's why and that's because every time I work, I just listen to his songs on YouTube in the background. The first thing that we do with the raw data is actually standardizing it according to a uniform format, uniform schema. Because as you can imagine, like different data sources like Google, Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, Amazon, and many others all use different schemas. So the first thing is actually standardizing it according to a schema that we did not invent. It's a W3C standard called activity streams. It's like a really nice schema that allows you to describe online interactions from online platforms. You can see here is an example of how we describe a user viewing a video. And so the type of this interaction is view. The object that is being viewed is actually a URL, like a YouTube URL. We get the title's name, and we also get the channel that uploaded that video on YouTube. And really important, the time in which we interacted with that content. So this is how we map all the data from the different data sources into something that it's easy to digest with just one schema that is already widely adopted by many other platforms. Also, out of this, we create an LLM-friendly preview, which is only textual, as you can see here. And this will turn out really handy in the demos that I'm going to show you in a second. So this is my data. As you can see, you probably noticed that there is a lot of signal. Again, you're probably convinced that I'm a big fan of this Vasco Rossi guy by now. But if you scroll through, you will also see that there is a lot of noise in here. And it's really hard to tell. This is actually one of my stories. this is actually the team working in the office, and we describe these stories to make them easy to understand by an LLM what's going on. But yeah, if you scroll through my data, you'll see that there is a lot of signal, but also a lot of noise. And agents in general don't really like noise. If you give it a little bit of noise, they will, just start hallucinating and do weird things. So what we do to turn this data into useful context is we generate what we call memories. So basically we take this threads. By the way, I forgot a fun fact. So everything at Fabric is named after fabrics. And the idea of tapestry, the idea of threads is thread is a single interaction, like from one of the different platforms. And we basically are weaving together all these threads into a nice, beautiful tapestry that describes you. And then we enable you to make that tapestry available to others. Here you can see the second step of our pipeline, which is the generation of memories. Actually, one of the first memories is about me listening to Vasco Rossi, which I encourage you to go and listen to by this point. And you can see that it wasn't just an isolated YouTube search that I did, which I often do. This was actually a recurring theme, actually something that was happening over like a period of 2 weeks. And involved like 40 different interactions. And here you can see all the different interactions that were used to create this particular memory. If we scroll through the memories, we might find, something else that is relevant, which is, for instance, me debugging the Google's Gemini batch embedding API, which is something that we use behind the scenes. Some other stuff that I've been doing that is relevant. Oh, this is perfect. This is actually me developing our agent using the Google's agent development kit, which I'll talk about briefly. And again, these are the searches, the threads related to that. So this is memories. Now we go one level even higher into what we call summaries. Summaries are basically weekly summaries of your online activity. And this, you can basically see it as the biography of you that gets written as you interact with all your favorite platforms around the internet. Of course, like you can scroll through and basically find out what I've been up to in the last few months, and almost like read literally a book about my life. At some point, I will publish it. But the cool thing about this is that also enables us to start searching for really specific things in my biography. For instance, we can search for one of my latest trips, which was a trip to Moscow, and this is basically the summary that represents that week. You can see, for instance, that I was traveling. I took a flight from London, flew via Istanbul. Then at the airport, I had an amazing breakfast, which I still remember. Then, during that week, of course, I visited the city center, and in particular, one of the highlights was that I ate one of my favorite foods, which is Georgian foods, khinkali and khachapuri, in case anybody likes them. But the point is, here we are starting to go, from the raw data that tells everything and beyond to something that is really specific about me, and that can really help my agents provide me with khachapuri instead of sushi, for instance. So this is Tapestry, and we have many other pipelines that go into more and more abstract representation of the users. And these are APIs that allows, of course, that power the user portal, but that allows developers to easily plug into the user's context and get like what they need, whether it's the raw data or like the actual rich context. This is about agents, and as you might know, agents don't really like APIs. And so one thing that we do is we have an MCP server that basically wraps these APIs into tools with tool descriptions and make it really, really easy for agents to find out how to get the data and what to do with it. So in order to demo this MCP server, actually, I would like to show you an agent that we developed. This is what I was talking about before. It's built using Google's ADK, which is again the agent development kit. It makes it extremely easy to get started with agents. So if you haven't tried it, try it. It takes literally a few minutes to launch your own agent, but at the same time, it gives you a lot of flexibility to really like tailor the agent's behavior according to your needs. You can imagine this agent. Actually, let me launch a query. For instance, I'm gonna ask something about like some book recommendations. You can ask anything, but I'm gonna ask some book recommendations based on my YouTube history. This agent is basically doing a deep research into you, into your context. And what's happening now behind the scenes is the agent is reaching out to our MCP server. It's finding out what are the different tools available. In this case, it decided to use one tool, which is the hybrid search over summaries tool, which is actually what I was showing you before in the tapestry. It decided to use this tool, and in particular, it tried to retrieve the books that are relevant for me from my YouTube history. And as you can see here, this is the actual response that I get, which might not actually mean much to you, but it definitely means a lot to me, because this is exactly what I've been really interested in the last few months. I've been like just watching videos on machine learning, and in particular, this is pretty funny because Chewy recommended me this book in a meeting like a few months ago, and this book has been quite useful to us, to Ishita in particular. So thanks a lot, Chewy, and also thanks a lot to the Fabric agent that spot that this is actually something really relevant to us. It's still not using Amazon's data, and therefore it doesn't know that I actually already bought that book, but that's why, more context will make this understanding even better. So this is about context portability, and so we don't want you to be stuck using our own agents. We want you to bring your context to all your agents, all your favorite AI apps. And for this, I'll pass the mic back to Ishita, and she will show us some really nice demos. And from now on, it's agents only.
Yes.
So it's going to be fun.
So, like Massimo just showed you how like our agent actually uses our own MCP server and like takes all these tools that we've developed, like hybrid search over summaries, like querying the raw data when it needs to, and actually like comes up with a really rich like contextual response. But we've always sort of, been fans of this view that like we shouldn't be the only company in the ecosystem. There should be lots and lots and lots of companies. And so we believe that you should be able to get this context wherever you are. So you shouldn't just have to interact with a Fabric agent. You should be able to interact with any agent. So I'm going to use Claude as a demo agent, and we've connected our MCP server here. So now Claude is actually going to use the exact same tools that you saw the Fabric agent use, and which, of course, are an abstraction over the APIs that we've built. And so it's all like a very nice layer. Now, I could try and type, but I think I'm just going to copy paste just so it's easier. So Claude is like very helpful for coding. So like I'm mainly using Claude as like Claude Code. So it doesn't have a lot of context into my personal life and like what I like. But of course, like thankfully for us, I search for a lot of restaurants. I go to a lot of restaurants, and I also post a lot of stories from them. So I'm going to ask the Claude agent to do something for me. It's going to be a bit slow, so you're going to have to bear with us because, as you would understand, this is actually a very complex query. Like it needs a lot of context, and in a universe where we didn't have this context, it would be asking me all these questions. So here is the hybrid search summaries tool, which Claude is now using. And here is the query. It decided from the user prompt to ask for restaurants, dining, food preferences, to get the context it needs. Once it did that, it decided actually that it needs more information. So it called another tool we have, which is the summaries, which you saw. So it decided to fetch a lot more summaries and like more summaries again. And this is like quite interesting. So now, this is now I get like a very, very, very good response where actually we can see whichever restaurants I'm interested in. So Dishoom Canary Wharf or Shoreditch is very interesting. I did post a story from that, but we were actually there yesterday, so I was searching for it. So maybe like this is a sign that I should be posting more stories. Lena Stores Kensington, again, another one that I'm very, very keen to go to. And you can see like all of these responses. London is a big city, there's a lot of restaurants, and you can see that all of these are actually grounded in the context that I've actually created in some shape or form. So I searched for Barafina and Misno, and there's all of this like, rich information. It's also like understood that I like fine dining, and I'm often posting on Instagram, and the photos are of a certain category. It's spanned years, it's found the cuisines that I like, and it also understood that December is my festive dining season based on the stories I posted last year. Also quite cool that it found that most of my preferences or most of the restaurants I've searched for are around Canary Wharf and Central London, which is where I'm based. And so instead of like this kind of response, as all of you who are using LLMs would know, to get this kind of response, you would need multiple turn conversations, and you would almost need to describe all of this yourself. You'd have to explain yourself, and only then could you get this response. It's very likely that you just wouldn't. So that's the value of using Fabric in this way. I'm also going to show you one on books, and this is, we're going to make the queries harder and harder. So this is like a starting query. Now, the next one that I'm going to ask, like Massimo just showed the books that he reads, and I read like very different books. And I'm also going to ask an even harder, even more specific question that can you find out who my favorite historical character is? Again, for an LLM to know this is, like, it's wild. Like, I would not be able to, like, tell you until I heard, like, is this a right response or not? So we'll find out. And I fully expect it to take quite a lot of turns to actually answer this question. If it didn't, like, I would be very surprised. Yeah, so here we go. So historical interest, cultural interest, history books. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, you're going to let it finish because it's going to keep writing. Yeah, so this is really quite amazing. So a few of you know me in the room, and you know, like, I'm absolutely obsessed with Mongol history, with history of the Mughals, with military strategy. And yeah, like, this would be insane for an LLM to actually know, unless it knew the books that I'd read, that I'd searched for, the quotes that I'd posted, the photos that I'd posted, and all of those interactions are very, very clear here. Yeah, William Dalrymple is one of the authors that I'm planning to get into now that I've worked through some of the beginner ones. Yeah, like, it found like all of my readings on the American founding fathers and recommended a few more books based on that topic. And like, I think most interestingly, it actually found my favorite historical character, which is, for those of you who don't know, this is like a great ruler who essentially consolidated the modern boundaries of India. Very tolerant, very, and I also noted this. Mongols didn't fight for honor, they fought for victory. It's quite funny that it actually brought this out. And it's using a lot of like very rich context here. So it's using the fact that I've actually visited various niche parts of India which have influences from Akbar's time. And all of that it's just very, very interesting that it's making these big parallels that, okay, right, like, you're reading about the Mongols, you're reading about the Mughals, you're reading about American founders, and you're reading about how someone transformed a regional kingdom into the world's most powerful empire. So this is like, there is just no way for Claude to have this context, or ChatGPT, or any app to have this context, because this is years of my personal context, like years of my personal interest that I've developed by reading, by visiting, and there's just, it blows my mind that we can do this now. I'll show you one more, and here, I actually want to focus on the fact that we can provide context, like MCPs can work in parallel with each other, right? So essentially, you don't have to, we don't just have to provide context into Claude. If there is an MCP, like a Booking.com MCP, or a Trivago MCP, or a Canva MCP, or a Figma MCP, we can actually integrate with Claude and provide context into that MCP, and it all happens with the user's consent. So I'm going to ask, plan me a really unique trip. I should probably say Sometimes we have to specify these things just because the protocol is new. And we're gonna demo that, and we'll queue that up. So again, like a really long query because it needs to figure out my interests. It needs to use the Fabric MCP, probably in a few turns, and then it needs to actually use the Trivago MCP. So I am expecting this one maybe to fail at some point, but I think we'll see. Maybe I'll run into like fair usage limits, maybe something will happen, but I guess we'll find out. So this is quite interesting. This is one of the tools we provide. So it looks like Claude has identified that it actually needs more than just the baseline summaries and the hybrid search over the summaries. So it's decided to see what data source that I actually have connected. So then it can decide to take the next few set of actions after that. So hopefully that should give it a bit more context. Yeah, so here's like a bunch of it's essentially found that I have Google search, Google video search, Google image search, YouTube, Instagram posts, Reels, stories. So it's found all of these, and now it's decided to search using its understanding of the data that I have connected. And again, like diving deeper, not just like happy with the high level search, actually going another step deeper. So yeah, this is sort of, this is just the agent is deciding by itself how to use all these tools, similar to how we showed our agent decide. So it can really sort of go multi-turn. It can take as long as it wants. Yeah, so here we go. Yeah, so it's essentially found out what I'm interested in. It found like my searches, like in Europe, the places that I've been to, the museums, galleries I've visited, the connection with India, the shopping, the food, the unique experiences. And it's designed like a very interesting journey, so Rajasthan to Uttarakhand. And it's now using, actually, so that context is now being used in another MCP, which is the Trivago MCP. And actually, the Trivago MCP is conducting its own set of searches based on the context that Fabric has provided into Claude. So this is like, really, I want to stop for a second and like almost stress like how cool this is. It's, we didn't integrate with Trivago. We didn't integrate with Claude. All I did was I just added an MCP server, which is my MCP server. I authorized it. And now I can bring everything from Instagram, YouTube, Google search into Claude. Claude then decides when to use it, and Trivago then decides how to act on it. And this is all at the sort of consent of the user. And yeah, like the Trivago agent is also doing a bunch of different searches. So like in the Golden Triangle, you have a beautiful place called Udaipur. So yeah, like this is now a search query being fired off to Trivago. And it's also trying to find a unique mountain retreat, this is also a very, very nice place close to where my family is from. Essentially, why this is really unique is, yeah, Fabric is actually able to provide context into Claude without actually integrating with Claude. Claude is then able to tell the Trivago agent what to do, or rather the Trivago agent is able to run its own set of search queries using the context that Fabric provided, and Fabric never actually integrated with either Trivago or Claude. And the user gets this amazing experience where I get a trip that I would actually really like to go to, with this amazing hotel that I've searched for many, many times before. I wish like someday I actually end up going there. But yeah, that's what it looks like. It's very beautiful. And there's also like an alternative, and they've also come up with like a whole sort of what I should do there, a whole itinerary. And yeah, so that's a little bit about like how Fabric actually integrates into all these products without truly integrating into all these products, just with the users sort of MCP integrations. Yeah, and I think like now we have like a bunch of amazing developers who will show a lot of this in practice. Like I want to stress that, at Fabric, like we really build for developers and build for prosumers, where we help everyone that wants to bring this context into different products. And we'll just help them get set up. Like feel free to grab some drinks, maybe grab a snack, and we'll sort of, maybe be set up in like 5-10 minutes. Yeah, thank you.
This is Aita. The motto is to get addicted to the real world and off your phones. And the mission is kind of clear. We spend a lot of time planning holidays. We live in the UK and the weather is really shit, so holidays are very important. And so, kind of with that in mind, the mission is really to both get people addicted to the real world, but also next slide, to actually remove all the friction from planning holidays. So Ishita lined us up great, and I didn't realize we were competing, but okay. And so yeah, basically removing all the friction is very hard, very difficult, and they're very important. So next slide. Well-planned holidays are great. You have a lot of fun. I was tasked with planning the holiday for 12 people to go skiing. That went really well. Ira?
That's just me and some of my friends from uni, drunk outside a club in Lagos, Portugal at 4 a.m. That's not it's a real motorbike, it just didn't work. All the wiring was coming out.
And then the first photo is how holidays can go wrong. So as I said, I used to be in finance, unfortunately, and as a result had many please fix comments throughout my couple of years there, and in venture capital. My boss is not here, so I can slate him a little bit. And that's why we built ITA, an app that helps you kind of really create personalized itineraries using full extent of your online presence, so with the help of Fabric. We really believe that every consumer should be able to own their data and use it for their own purposes. So now into the demo.
Please ignore the fact that I'm showing you the demo on Lovable. So let's plan a trip together. If you're anything like me, over the last year and a half, everyone seems to have been going to Japan. About half of my friends have gone to Tokyo in the last 6 months, so let's go to Tokyo. When I think cherry blossom season is sometime in April. I guess flowers are cool. And budget in this hypothetical scenario, I'm incredibly rich. So let's do ultra luxury. Type of holiday, city break. I want some food. And cultural and historical, because why not? And additional notes, this is just if you want some special considerations, but let's leave that blank for now because we want to just show how the actual context is being used. And you'll see this take inspiration part where Shreyas will go through the sort of pivot we've made recently. So you just click here, and as you can see, it will be ready in a moment. And while that's going, we'll show you some of the other parts.
Cool. So the other part of the journey that we've been on is something that I didn't mention. ITA means journey in Latin. So over the next few minutes, we want to continue kind of taking you on that journey. So if we go to my Colombia trip from 2 years ago, that was a lot of fun. Basically, what we had planned to do was try to challenge Mark Zuckerberg and want to get you off Instagram and onto our platform, but that can be quite hard, people have told me. So what we wanted instead was to essentially get you guys actually posting again, because I know no one really posts and they just consume slop on TikTok, Instagram, etc. So if you scroll down a little bit higher, what you'll see is that every post should give us more details, more data about you, and stuff that can be put into your context and really used to help personalize itineraries. So here, my Colombia trip, if you go across the slides, was a map of my trip. That was Medellin, and then this was a lovely hostel in Cartagena. That if you scroll down, you can see the budget and you can see the kind of holiday that it was, like beach, relaxation, solo travel, etc. So what we wanted to do was kind of combine all of that and kind of help you save that down, and then based on that, give you recommendations in the previous app. We realized that firstly, on Fabric, and Fabric are really helping us to get that context anyway, and two, I'm not going to fight Mark Zuckerberg just yet. So back to the itinerary.
So it will be ready by now. So you can see I've made a few. This is for a uni ski trip in March. So let's do Tokyo. So there's the map showing where you're going and a brief summary of the trip you're planning. These dates are editable, so if you have any changes in mind. So it's the type of holiday, and here you've got a rough budget estimate, and you can also change this whenever you want. The key editability is also up here, so you can chat with your LLM and change whatever you want and just continuously update it. But let's go to the day-by-day itinerary because this is the cooler part. So you can see these blue and purple hyperlinks. So these blue hyperlinks are just online reviews, so whatever's cool that other people have enjoyed. But these purple ones are recommendations powered by Fabric. So as you can see, it's recommending me authentic Japanese ramen spots. So about a week ago, I was quite ill and I was on Deliveroo and searching up the best ramen spots around. So I assume, based on this, that if I would like ramen from somewhere in London, I would probably like ramen if I was in Tokyo. That makes sense. You've got the Edo Tokyo Museum. Was that your search for the Edo? Oh yeah, I did look this up. So that was based on University Challenge, but I was doing some general reading on Japanese history, kind of just for fun. Tokyo National Museum. Similarly, I think this is based on the fact that I was looking up answers that I didn't get from when I try and fail to answer the questions on University Challenge. And you can see, let's see this, automotive. Okay, so I was looking at Nissan GTR R34s a while ago. It's a really cool car that one day I hope to be able to buy. So these Web City, oh yeah, the RAV4. I was looking at the RAV4 a while ago just because I like it. Imperial
We don't want
Palace.
to know everything when I'm joking.
Sorry. Let's see. Natsume, is that a poet? Oh, Haruki Murakami. Yeah, so Haruki Murakami is a Japanese author. I don't know if any of you have heard of him. Has some interesting takes on a lot of things, but I thought Kafka on the Shore was quite good. So I was looking at Norwegian Wood, which is one of his other books. So as you can see, these are the types of basically personal recommendations that wouldn't be possible without the context from Fabric. So the idea with this is that you want to go to places that reflect who you are, and the best online version of who you are is represented by, here we have your Google search data. And so these are some things that I may not have even thought that I would enjoy there, or may not have even known were there, because I wouldn't have found them, or would have taken too long to find online. So some other features of the itinerary we can just go through, when to get there and how, what are the best places to stay. It's recommending me the Ritz-Carlton. Well, I did select ultra luxury. And then some essential travel tips. Just, you don't want to stick out like a sore thumb, I guess, especially in Japan. And that's the essence of it. And the last thing I'll show you is here. So this is the key bit that kind of makes it as seamless as possible, and that's the collaboration. So I don't know if you've planned trips with friends, but it can be completely exhausting in every single way possible and make you stop wanting to be friends with them. So the idea with this is that, let's say I send it to Shreyas. I invite him to join this. He receives that, and then this becomes joint between us. He can access the same thing. He can edit it whenever he wants from up here. He can also tell it to incorporate all of his context, and so we will get recommendations for both of us, so that we're not just doing things I want, as much as that would be nice. So that's the other key part, and yeah, we hope you like it.
Yeah. We're not. You can clap us, but not yet. Wow, I feel like I know you better and actually want to go on holiday with you now. So final slide. If we go back. What's next, and how do we kind of carry on building? When this loads, the next thing would just be to integrate kind of all the different parts of context. So Instagram, Google search is on there already, but YouTube, etc., etc. And then kind of making trips editable in real time. So let's say you go on, so I'm going to Guatemala in a few, I do work, I don't just go on holidays, by the way, but so I'm going to Guatemala in a few weeks. We plan to do the Acatenango hike, but we're probably going to get drunk the night before, so we might need to shift that. So it will freeze your holiday in real time, and then you can update the rest of the holiday in real time. And then create like a log for you to kind of track that. So basically trying to remove the shittest parts of holidays and let you guys have fun. So that's the waiting list. We're going to launch in 2-ish weeks. So if you want to do the QR code, by all means, please do. But yeah, thank you for listening. And please feel free to come up to us, give us your product kind of review. If you hate it, let me know. If you love it, let me know, and everything in between. Thank you. I'm not sure if there are any questions. If there are, then by all means. Yes?
What's your website?
Oh, ITILWorld, www.itilworld.com, but it doesn't work yet.
Yes.
Any others? Yes.
How much is it?
How much is it? It's absolutely free. That's not going to be the potential monetization strategy. There's obviously affiliate marketing or advertising. Let's see, we're still iterating. Very much day one of Paul Graham's ethos. Yes.
Do I have to go through different platforms then I log in again and again? Or does it go one off?
So you can do the OAuth link through Fabric, and then all of the data is just, you get it from that. There's the pipeline that we get the data from there. And that's fairly seamless on the user end. I say so myself, as hopefully it is. Working on making it even more frictionless. Thank you.
Cool. Hi guys. I'm Matilda. I want to share what I've been working on for the last 3 weeks in generative user interface. Since generative user interface is personalized to me, I think it makes sense for you guys to learn a bit about myself before we go into the demo. So yeah, as I said, my name's Matilda. I study computer science and I work in tech at the moment. I spend a lot of time between Berlin and London, and I've recently got really interested in AI safety. So I've been doing a bit of learning around like AI alignment and AI control. In my spare time, I like to go to music events, like go clubbing in London, and also like try out new hobbies. And on the topic of holidays, which I think we've spoken about quite a bit today, I'm planning a trip to go surfing in Morocco. I've never been surfing before, and I'm looking at like different surf hostels. So afterwards, if anyone has any tips for Morocco, we'd love to hear them. Okay, so enough about me. Let's go into the demo. So the first thing that happens here is that it's going to call the OnFabric API and get all of my data from across my different social channels. So for me, the ones I've connected are my Instagram, Google, and Pinterest. The next thing that's going to happen is it's feeding it into an LLM, which is generating a sort of persona for me. That's based on the search like pins and posts from Fabric. And the sort of things that it's learning about me is the sort of industry I work in, a bit about my age, my working style, and then sort of all of these which are like the patterns of interest. So what the LLM here is looking for is it's looking for patterns that are relevant to generating a sort of personalized user interface, so it's specifically prioritizing those sort of topics. If we go down to the next section, this is the UI color scheme generator. So it's given a sort of like framework for this color scheme and the fonts, as well as the persona from the previous step. And it's going to generate me a color scheme it thinks will like appeal to me. We have to put some constraints because it's about design. So for example, the font needs to have enough contrast so I can actually read the text. I don't want to use any purple because I don't know if you guys have noticed this, but purple is the sort of color that a lot of these like LLM app builders generate as like AI slop. No dig to anyone there. And yeah, I want the font to be readable. Like I don't want it to be like a crazy font that I can't read. And it needs to make sense based on who I am. So if we go to the next step, so this is actually happening simultaneously. This is like what I call the UI architect. So it's basically fed in a library of different UI components, and each UI component is given with a particular intent. So for example, if it knows that I maybe want to go on holiday or I'm based between two cities, it might think that I want to see a weather component. And so that's the sort of like intent that a weather component would have. Each of these components is sort of paired with an API, so the LLM is also generating like the correct data to make the API call so that it can be like enriched also with personalized data. Yeah, and then the final step is the dashboard assembly where it kind of puts it all together. Yeah, this is like a bit more of the technical architecture. So yeah, the OnFabric API here, pattern detector, which is this like persona thing we spoke about at the start, and as you can see, it generates the theme and the UI. The content writer we didn't speak about, so that's calling the Perplexity API and then feeding it through Claude and like sort of rewriting the content based on the tone and depth that it thinks that I would like based on the persona that is generated. Yeah, cool. So let's see what the dashboard looks like. Okay, cool. So as you can see here, the color scheme is generated because I work in tech. It looks a bit like a terminal, I guess, and the font as well. Yeah, so it knows that I've been researching and watching YouTube videos about AI safety and a bit about alignment. So it's generated me a sort of content component, which has been fed through Perplexity on the topic of alignment. It knows, like from my Instagram post, that I spend time in Berlin. And so it's thought that I might want to see what the weather is like in Berlin. And so it's sort of chosen to render the weather component and fill that with like the relevant data. I think the coolest one here is the surf spots. So what it's done is it knows that I'm like thinking about this surfing all day in Morocco, which I keep going on about. And it's called the Mapbox API, and then sort of overlaid that with like top surfing spots in Morocco. Yeah, I mean, like the really like principle behind this is the AI is making like primarily all the design decisions, but also the decisions of like what exactly to render, which is like sort of what I think is the future of user interfaces and like a personalized web. Yeah, and then I guess the other thing I want to talk about is like where this could go, like this project could go. So I've only like put in a few components, so the AI actually doesn't have that much flexibility per person on what components it renders, but it's sort of very easily extendable, and I think it would be really interesting if you had sort of like hundreds of different components with different intents that the AI could choose between. And like rather than it just being like the font and the color scheme, it would be cool to give like more power to the AI over like what the design actually looks like. I think like in the Fabric data as well, there's really interesting patterns. So we could think about like at different times of day, maybe this dashboard will look different. So maybe I always want to know when my bus is coming in the morning, or maybe I'm like always looking up cooking videos in the evening. And so I might want to see like a shopping list component at 5 p.m. when I finish work, or like 6:30 p.m. when I finish work. Yeah, and then also because it knows like kind of what websites I spend a lot of time on, or I'm searching for a lot, so maybe the UI could be personalized towards the websites that I spend time on. So for example, if I spend more time on like Substack over TikTok, I might want to see more like textual components. Yeah, that's everything. Thanks, guys. Yeah, I have also a QR code. If anyone wants to like fill in their email, and when I put it like publicly on GitHub, I'll also share it on there. Or if anyone wants to chat about generative user interfaces. Thank you. Any questions? Or... Yeah.
So you're definitely going to open source it then?
Yeah. I can't promise the code is like that good quality. Cool, thank you.
Good evening. My name's Tim, and I'm one of the co-founders of PageShift AI. So, well, with a show of hands here, who have thought about the future of entertainment? I'm talking movies, I'm talking books, I'm talking TV shows. Yeah, you have. Well, not too many, but the current status quo of entertainment of blockbuster movies is it costs you around $200 million, 5+ years to make a blockbuster movie, and in the end the result is not personalized at all for the consumer. So that's the current state. So in the meantime, something has happened. It's called AI, and the future is going to look quite different. Blockbuster movies will be creatable for just $2 in 2 minutes, and they will be tailor-made just for you. So this is going to look something like every evening you come home and there's a new blockbuster movie or any other kind of content for that matter waiting for you and personalized to you on top of that. So what do we do at PageShift? What's the missing piece in all of that? It's the underlying storytelling. And one of our first products is the world's first ever AI audiobook generator. So with a little prompt, you can generate 8-9 hour long audiobook, and I'm going to demo that in just a second. But remember this slide again, $2, 2 minutes. Well, there's this third aspect, and it's tailor-made. So this personalization is super important. And luckily, there's a company which is providing that data, on Fabric. And I want to just demo that to you how we're using that. So let me open up my iPhone. So I'm super into aviation. I love all things flying. And I'm also from Switzerland, so I love skiing. But mainly aviation, right? That's what I love. And how is this playing out in our storytelling? How is this personalization data going to turn out in this audiobook experience? So I'm going to show you the thing without personalization first. So I want to have a thriller tonight, and I go down. Sorry, that's the wrong one. I want to have a thriller again. That's the right one. Press generate. It takes a few seconds and it gives me a little preview of, oh, did we get it right? In the meantime, I can scroll through other books other people have created on our page, but I'm waiting on my story. So here I have Mara Jen, a 32-year-old medical examiner in a rain-slick city where every street glows with. Well, this sounds all super interesting, and it got kind of the vibe. It's a thriller, it's a conspiracy, but it's definitely not tailor-made. It's not personalized to me. So how is this going to play out if it's tailor-made to me? So same thing, thriller. This time I want to personalize it with the data on Fabric is providing me. I press generate and it takes another 15 seconds to come up with another preview. But this time, as I said, it's taking the data from the Instagram I've just showed you. It's taking the data from YouTube and Google. And this time it looks quite different. So I see already the title is Red Ledger over Zurich. I live in Zurich, so already much more interesting. I see Sub-Zero in Switzerland. Yeah, that's Switzerland, and it has something to do with drones. I mean, I love all things flying, so you see, it's basically day and night, this whole thing. And this is a very obvious example I just made here. In real life, this goes then down to very small details. Where in the storytelling do you want to have your plot twist? How many plot twists do you want to have? And so forth, all those small details. So this is the future of entertainment. It's not only going to be much cheaper and faster created, it's also going to be a much better storytelling experience where you're not going to spend hours and hours reading something, watching something that's not interesting to you. You're going to actually be very invested into those things. So if you want to talk to me afterwards and also into the future of entertainment, I'm here. And yeah, thanks a lot for your attention. Yeah, also you should hinge. You should add hinge to your own Fabric. Kidding. We have our X account here if you want to follow us. Yeah.
So, Tim, I wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
you've started with audiobooks. Are there any other products that you think would be interesting that you're thinking of working on next? Yeah, what do you
We chose the audiobooks because there's a niche of audiobooks is a very small niche of people who are very engaged in that content, and for us it was just an easy entrance. Our angle is obviously movies. Creating the underlying foundation for the storytelling of movies and TV shows and all that stuff, but it's going to be books, it's going to be comics, and all that stuff is going to come in. Yeah, cool. Yeah.
In order to make personalized movies, what data would you like to be able to flow through Fabric?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing is to have your Netflix account linked to us, and whether you're going to drop out at what's your history there, of course. I mean, but alone on YouTube, I mean, I watch a lot of summaries of movies because I can't watch 2-hour-long movies. So I go on YouTube and watch those 10-15-minute summaries, and even that tells us a lot about what's your taste, where do you drop out in the story, what kind of stories do you like, and all that stuff. So that already helps a lot. Yeah. So already a very good start with on Fabric. Yeah, thanks a lot, guys.
Hi everyone, I'm Tom. I'm an AI engineer and consultant, and I have a problem. So I love watching a lot of interesting, controversial videos on YouTube. But the problem with these videos is that they're often like very, very long. So let's take this one. So this one is about, it's a debate on whether a super intelligent AI is going to kill us all in the next 5 years. Now, I'd love to know the answer to that, but unfortunately, this video is 2 hours and 21 minutes long. So I'm not sure if if it's worth my time jumping in right away. And what about this one? So this one is on a topic which is apparently even more complex than building super intelligent AI. This is Israel and Palestine debate, and it has the typical round time of a Lex Friedman podcast, which is about 5 hours long. So what should I do with it? So my solution is to build an AI agent called AI Debate Arena, where I can paste in any link to any YouTube video, and the agent will watch the video, will analyze the different arguments, and give me a verdict of who won the debate, and also whether it's worth my time watching it. So let's see how it works. So I'm going to grab the link to the superintelligence debate and paste it into the agent. So the agent now watches the whole video. Now, usually this takes about 10 to 20 minutes, but because I've already run it, we get instant answer. This is kind of deep research style agent that goes and figures out who are the different sides of the debate, summarizes arguments in a structured way, and generates a verdict. So let me see if I... Okay, so this is the result. So you have this very detailed summary. So this is like the best representation of the different side arguments. And what I find really cool is that the agent is able to draw this detailed and accurate argument map for every debate, for every side of the debate, such that, given this propositional summary and given the argument map, the agent can figure out, and also the human can figure out, whether there's any logical gaps and fallacies present in each side, so that it can generate an accurate and useful verdict using an AI judge that is aligned to what I consider to be, an objective verdict. So this is how it works on a basic level. There's also argument simulation, so you can actually have different sort of people who haven't debated, on YouTube directly. You can have them debate with each other. So I'm not going to show that. What I'm going to show you is how we take this whole premise to the next level. Because when you think about it, what would be really, really cool is to actually have this agent run in the background. And if it could get access to my YouTube history and see which videos, I got in my feed, which videos I maybe started watching but haven't finished, and just watch those videos for me and figure out, like, hey, is this an interesting debate that I'd like to watch, and recommend which ones are probably worth watching or not. So Fabric allows me to program my agent to set up this daily trigger, which says, like, hey, scan YouTube history for debates on controversial topics. And this is what it looks like behind the scenes. So my agent is contacting the Fabric agent, and it's giving the Fabric agent the following task. Find me debates on or controversial discussions from yesterday's YouTube watch history that would be suitable for a political/philosophical analysis. Now, you'll appreciate that this is not a simple retrieval task. It's not like a filtering thing. It actually requires a multi-step agentic retrieval. And this is, in fact, what the Fabric agent is able to provide. So it goes and grabs the YouTube history, which it has access to. It evaluates, filters out irrelevant videos, but, it grabs some early candidates and then, looks at my personal context and finds out, hey, would this be interesting? Would this be suitable for this criterion? And then finally decides that, these two debates would be worth my time. I would be interested in seeing the results of that, and sends those videos to my agent. So my agent grabs those videos, runs the sort of analysis that I showed earlier, and then pings me when it's ready. So it just says, like, hey, I've analyzed 2 debates from your YouTube history yesterday. Here are the results. and these are the results. So if I'm interested in this one, I can just tell the agent to like, hey, show me this analysis, and it's all ready to go. Now these results are actually quite interesting, and you know, might encourage you to watch the whole video, one of these. So I find this incredibly exciting because when you think about what's going on here, so it's not just that, you know, Fabric take this fire hose of data from all these big tech platforms. So you, as the AI developer, don't have to do it yourself. You don't even have to index that data. The Fabric does all the reasoning over that personalized context itself. So you can just give it a very specific, difficult task, like, you know, find me this type of content, I want this signal, and Fabric agent can provide that signal directly to my agent. So I think this is going to enable, like, you know, totally new generation of agentic personalized apps. So I hope you enjoyed this preview. Thanks. Yeah.
Well, two questions. Firstly, quickly, like, are you using just the transcript or like using Gemini to actually understand the video? And second of all, like, are you kind of thinking, like how are you thinking about the product direction? Because I feel like if you're watching YouTube videos, maybe you want to render like split highlight clips and create like a 30-minute summary or something like that. Rather than
You're thinking in the right direction. We should talk about it later. So right now it's the agent is reading the transcript. Now the transcript we're getting from YouTube is unlabeled, so you know you can't tell who's saying what. So there are multiple passes where we have an agent. The agent identifies the different speakers, the different sides of the debate. It's actually takes quite a bit of time. Ultimately, with multimodal AIs, you'll be able to ingest the entire video. I still don't think that, given the limitations, just the inherent limitations of LLMs, you'll be able to ingest an entire 5-hour video and have like high quality analysis done in one shot. I think it's still going to be a deep research type of job, and with more inference, we could just do more passes. This is like, where is the direction of the product going? Well, ultimately my interest is in like real-time fact checking. So this would run in real time, as you're writing, as you're preparing for a debate, or you're writing something that is, on a difficult or controversial subject. This will like surface like different perspectives, agreeing and opposing, and figure out how you can strengthen your argument, how you can improve your own thinking, and also, hey, probably the background agent can do some search and recommend new videos for you to watch based on what you've been consuming, and also maybe find your own kind of like if you have been like looking into this AI alignment debate, right? Maybe you haven't explored one perspective that is kind of in your blind spot. The agent will be able to detect that and just recommend that to you. Yeah.
Have you thought of putting some scoring into different axes, and that would also make it more graphical and maybe more scientific, look more scientific? Have you thought of that?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, there is we've got the argument map. That's sort of the most visual part of it. But the scoring can be quite subjective. Now, truth is very hard to establish. So the best thing you can do is you can sort of steelman each argument accurately and give this to like a downstream AI that is aligned to you. But yeah, I mean, I think like with the scoring, if you've played around with AI evaluations, it's very hard to like have like 1 to 5 scoring. Like what is it? How would you score it? Is it like quality of logic or something else? Like it's very easy to disagree with that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you all for coming. So we wanted to, just show you all of this, show you like what we're building, show you the amazing work that the developers have done, like building context-rich apps on top of us, and also thank Google for being wonderful partners at every step of the way. So, really like helping us not only just like get access to the API, but like building with us, like troubleshooting. The team is always available, and then also like hosting this event with us. We also have drinks and like food in the back, so would love to ask you all to join me there.